Welcome to the Loveland Report and the Lone Ranger Show. I am Cleve Loveland, Central Florida's best real estate planner, alongside Bruce Woodburn, the Lone Ranger.
That's me.
We're going to give you all of your real estate and mortgage news, what's going on this week. Don't worry about what the talking heads said on all the networks out there. We've got the real news of what's going on in Central Florida, nationwide, what's happening, and we're going to dig into that. I'm going to talk
There
about,
are some talking heads out there, though.
are.
Oh, my God. Do we hear them? They are coming up with some stuff that I can't believe it.
And they're squealing about stuff. They're squealing about Elon and Doge. We're going to talk about what that means for real estate. The spring market, Bruce, I think, is dipping in here early. And then tax time, 1031 exchanges, ways to avoid taxes. We're going to talk a little bit about that. What do you have for today?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the market right now, because we've had some nice improvements in the bond market. But then again, on Wednesday, we saw a bit of a sell-off. The stock market didn't do so well. I think that we've got some inflationary issues that we're going to have to deal with, and it's going to take them getting under control before we start to see these interest rates improve much. So we're going to get into interest rates, what's causing them, and where the programs are that people are looking for right now to get into homes. Who is buying right now? Like, what's our average buyer who's jumping in the market right now?
I'd say they're the smartest people in the room, because everybody's saying, "Oh, we'll wait till the rates come down," because we're still bobbing around in the high sixes.
Still bopping around in the high sixes. I mean, right now we were starting to lock some loans in the mid sixes. Wednesday became a little bit of more of a problematic day for us, but we see some recovery on. But
I think the people buying now, a year from now, it's going to be more expensive. Like, our prices rose through a crappy, Sleepy Joe economy the past 2 years.
They're still appreciation.
We still saw, regular appreciation, 2 to 5%, depending on where you're at. So I think people buying now, and you're dating this rate,
and you're marrying the house.
You've got your VIP list. They'll be on it to refi.
Absolutely.
And you know exactly what rate they need to be at to make it worthwhile. So don't walk into your bank and ask them whether it's time to refi or not.
Well, everybody will tell you yes.
Yes. Yeah. Refi now. I need the money for the loan. Yeah. So, but you'll tell them what's the exact right time to do that, because there are some costs involved. We had a couple people, you helped out. They bought their house before they sold their old house.
Yes.
And we did some recasting. Will you tell everybody what that is?
Sure. Absolutely. So oftentimes people want to buy a home, but they don't want to sell the one they're in before they move into the one they want.
It makes things simpler, a lot simpler.
It does. But a lot of people just won't qualify with 2 mortgages. In this case, they did, but then they wanted to, take time to maybe paint the new house, do some work to it. They had some flooring and things they wanted to do to it, and then sell the home. And it really worked out famously. But they put 20% down to buy the home, but then they were going to come close to paying it off after they sold their home. So I said, look, you don't have to completely pay it off, but we can recast it. They said, well, what does recast mean? So let's just say I had a $400,000 loan. Then they sold their existing home. They had $300,000 to put down on it. If you put $300,000 down on a $400,000 loan, your payment would remain the same, but the house would probably pay off in 5 or 6 years.
Recast it, which is different from the refi.
Right. It's different than a refinance. You apply principal to your mortgage, and I will make your new payment commensurate with the new balance. So you put $300 down. Now your payment is based on a $100,000 loan instead of a $400,000 loan. And the loan continues to pay off over a 30-year period of time, rather than just dumping principal on it and paying it off early. So it's a great way for people to be able to get their payment in line with what they're looking for. And that's a
cross-country thing. I never heard anybody else doing that.
Well, some banks and mortgage companies will do it. Cross-country is unique.
Well, you guys always innovate the right products and the right loan. You've got more loans than you take a stick at.
We have every program that anyone could need. We have the fastest close time. We have the most flexible underwriting. We have everything in-house. Everything we do is in-house. We've almost never would broker a loan, Cleve. Why? Because brokers aren't in control of the transaction.
Exactly.
Everything we do, our foreign nationals, our bank statements, our DSCRs, everything we do, our reverse mortgages, everything we do in-house. We don't broker it out to another company.
Yep. So I want to talk about, we got Elon and his Doge meter and how many initiatives he started to cut money and save money. When all this surplus rolls through the government, hopefully that'll reflect in the economy, hopefully in the bond market.
I'm certainly hoping
but right
so.
now, main thing Trump is, cutting regulation. The main thing that stops affordable housing and stops what's going on out there is regulations. Now in Florida, I think we're lucky, but to start a new home, a builder has anywhere from 15 to 30,000 in impact fees.
That's right.
And hooking up the house to utilities and getting, paying for the schools and paying for the roads.
Expensive.
It is expensive. But if the federal government can cut some regulations and stop some of that stuff, that will ripple through to us in the free market. The builders want to sell more homes. So that would be great, I think, if that happens.
And the cities, although they feel like they're giving their own land away, even though it's not their land, it's our land. But the cities the counties make it very, very difficult for people to and builders to get their permits. I mean, these impact fees and the permitting is ridiculous. And it is a lot of red tape. Now, we need some regulation. Speaking of regulation, we should get to it at some point during the show, Cleve, about the CFPB and Trump shutting down the CFPB temporarily, maybe permanently.
I think that'd be a good thing, right?
Well, I don't know if it would be a good thing or not. So I want to discuss it so that our listeners understand, what is the CFPB? What do they do? And is it necessary? So you want to get into that?
Go ahead. Yeah, go. Let's give our numbers out first.
Okay, let's give phone numbers for Cleve.
You want to call me for real estate planning? You want to sell, buy, or you want me to manage your rentals? You're tired of fighting with tenants? 407-352-8118. A live person will answer the phone.
Yeah, or call the loan arranger, Bruce Woodburn, Cross Country Mortgage, 35 years in the mortgage business, right here in your backyard. I work for the largest retail lender in the country. We have more loan programs. We have the fastest underwriting team. We close loans quicker than any other mortgage company, and our pricing is unbelievable. 407-250-9144. That's 407-250-9144, or go to WeBringYouHome.com. So CFPB shut down by Trump, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. This department is designed to help consumers against big banks and insurance companies, lenders. So the consumer CFPB, what they do is they enforce 18 different laws. They regulate 3,400 big financial institutions. That's what they do.
Yep.
They regulate them. And this is where a consumer would go to complain. My mortgage company is overcharging me. My mortgage company didn't refund my escrows. My mortgage company is charging me a late fee when my payment was made on time. My mortgage company is discriminating against me, or my bank. Could be any number of those things. They oversee that. So that's where the consumer goes to complain. So now you have to remember that we need an organization for people to go to. So where would they go if the CFPB didn't exist?
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask you.
So the CFPB is national, where if we did away with CFPB, you would have to go to your state attorney general. And if you go to the state attorney general, are they going to have the power to oversee your bank if they're located in Chicago?
Okay. Well, what do we do? Wasn't CFPB invented in like 2008?
Yes, it was. 2011 as CFPB came to fruition, they started really enacting all these laws. So would our state attorney general be able to handle that workload? Well, I don't know. I'll give you an example. There was $63 million last year in banking fraud for veterans alone that were serving overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that big banks, Capital One is under huge investigation for holding back interest that's owed to clients. So that's unfair practices, and we can't allow these big companies to take advantage of the small person. How we get that resolved, and whether there's a lot of extra pork fat with the CFPB, I would bet there is. But do we still need some type of an overseeing type of a entity to be able to protect us? We don't see
like the predatory loans anymore, and mostly because
we don't, because the CFPB eliminated them.
But I think on the other side of that, the capitalist in me says, that's because the banks know they don't work, and there are some regulations out there that says you can't charge 7 points on a loan anymore.
That's right.
And before you could, so those things, those rules that came through are good. But I just think that once again, there's probably it's probably got, I don't know how many employees it has, but there's probably, I'd say, 50-60% too many.
Oh, I would bet that at least that.
That's all the squealing. That's all the squealing you hear on the evening news when they're talking about, they paraded into this office.
Maybe you have an opinion about this yourself. If you're listening right now, you can call or text Cleve or I. Cleve can be reached at 407-352-8118 or the Loan Arranger at 407-250-9144. Yeah. So I don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? It remains to be seen as to what the alternative is going to be moving forward. So that's, I'm really concerned that it could be eliminated, but I don't know enough about it. And I don't think that most people do.
And it's just, and change is hard, but as long as it goes in the right direction and it's a good thing and good rules, that's what we want. We don't need more regulation. I think
we don't need more.
The last time, when was it they redid your guys' good faith estimate? Was that part of Dodd-Frank?
Well,
or was that 2018?
That was all part of Dodd-Frank, the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. They redid to make it easier for consumers. So we went from a 2-page application to a 5-page application.
And also the good faith estimate.
Closing statement now is 5 pages. It was 1 page.
Yeah, that
You're
makes
trying
a lot
to
of
tell me
sense.
that you've made it easier. Yeah. I'm telling you, I know most loan officers could not go through every item on a closing disclosure statement and explain it to a client. Now, my loan officers are required to know it inside and out. Truth in lending, the CD, all the disclosures, everything. They have to know it inside and out. And that's the CCM
and some good
difference.
Things came out of that. That's the time, I think, isn't that when the privacy laws came out where the buyer can't sit in the same room as the seller? I like that. I never had my sellers in the same room as the buyer anyway.
It doesn't make any sense.
What's the buyer going to do? Everybody thinks it's going to be all happy, but what's the buyer do?
Right.
Ask you for more stuff.
Yes.
Now, that's a bad thing.
Well,
but that's not the time to be negotiating.
The head of the CFPB, Russell Vought, said that the CFPB is woke and weaponizing against defrauded and unscrupulous companies. So it's woke. He thinks that the whole entity needs to be redone anyway.
Redone. So start another one.
Start a new one,
like the External Revenue Service.
And we're going to call it the Elon CFPB.
Well, that'll spin some heads off. Be just like The Exorcist out there. But I just think right now, Bruce, we're getting into a bit of a kind of a spring market. I've seen more activity the past couple of weeks. I'm taking more listings, and we're going to dig into that in the next segment. We're going to do I've got some listings we're going to talk about, and we're going to get into tax time and how do you minimize that tax damage for the IRS if you got a bill to pay them. We'll get into that. My phone number, 407-352-8118, or go to cleveloveland.com if you need help on your next real estate plan. Mom and dad going into assisted living. What do you do with their house? Do you rent it? Do you sell it? When's the time to do a 1031
exchange? We have
exchange?
all the plans for you.
All that. I can do all that for you and give you an idea. It's funny, Bruce. I walked out of a house the other night, and when I said, guys, I think you're good. I think we need to wait another year or so. And they're like, we thought you'd be trying to get us to sign papers. I don't do that. They literally didn't know. Nobody had showed them, hey, the amortization on your mortgage is almost like $1,000 a month. You've been in there for a while, and the prices are probably going to go up 3 to 5%.
Right.
So they were only going to walk with like 30 grand. A year from now, they could walk with 60 or 70.
Well, it's funny because when you go into a listing appointment, the chances on you getting that listing are very, very high. Most people that interview Cleve are going to sign with Cleve. Will he force papers down your throat?
Nope.
Not in a million years. Matter of fact, you actually have to be right for him too, because some sellers may be unrealistic and it's not in alignment with your core values. That's the same with me. I mean, I just had a builder that I was working with down in Lakeland that wanted me to do things for their clients that were against guidelines. And I said, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I cut ties with that builder, literally cut ties with him.
It can't be.
They wanted me to have the clients not sign their draw releases, meaning that every time I give the builder a draw, they didn't want the buyer to have to see that draw. And I'm like, well, that first of all, it's against HUD guidelines. Second of all, it's just wrong. And they said, oh no, our lenders will do that. Well, your lenders are committing fraud.
Yeah.
So
that's not
that was a builder that I cut ties with down in Lakeland. If you want to know who they are, just call me at 407-250-9144, and we can steer clear of people that do fraudulent things. Cleve and I will be back in 5 minutes with more of the Loveland Report and the Loan Arranger Show. Don't go anywhere.